Welcome to 13 Minutes of Gig News in 13 minutes or less. This is for May 20th, you guys. Well, let's just jump right in because the first one, it's a big one. Um, I am shocked. I am appalled. I am, well, where to start with this one? Okay, it's Uber related, obviously. By now, whether you do rideshare or not, whether you have kids or not, I would assume no matter what gig apps or app you work, you have heard this news regardless because it is some of the craziest news I've ever seen. So we're going to walk through it a little bit. Is that Uber rideshare now has Uber Teen? Um, okay, so Uber Teen is everything. When I started rideshare in 2015, we all the time I was having to cancel from high schools and teenagers, and unaccompanied minors have always not even been at the discretion of the driver. That has been a policy that Uber actually put into effect, even though we're independent contractors to make those decisions. They said no unaccompanied minors, and here's why, guys. Here's one of the main things. So, I've told you guys be careful if you're going to do um, beer liquor delivery. Look into it in your state. If you, I mean, you should feel comfortable calling your insurance agent. So look into it. Make sure that you're covered to do that under whatever gig commercial insurance or full commercial insurance or whatever you're carrying. Um, but also, look into Uber Connect. That is like when I'm doing B2B, that's way more covered by like a Curry. So like C to C or C to B, which is customer to customer or customer to business, which is what the Uber Connect model is, of just running some random box that somebody gave you and said, no, there's nothing illegal in there. Even that could be very complicated by state laws. So again, I would, on those two alone, I would have already been asking these are for delivery too. So I'd be asking your insurance, like, are you covered to be doing that kind of stuff? Make sure that you are, because that one time, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that didn't have right insurance or whatever, and then not only did something happen, but it played out in such a negative way. Now, do I hear about it from everybody? No, but obviously people have reached out to me because of the podcast and whatnot over the years, saying it happened to them. So I've heard quite a few stories, but this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So the parents are going to be able to click a I accept responsibility for my child being in the car, blah 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 blah. So um, I have argued with high schoolers about getting in. I've asked them for ID. They've said it's my parents' account. It's fine with them. Call them. I've called them only not to talk to them and say, "Hey, is this okay?" But I've called them to tell them this is not okay. Um, Oddly enough, we did a Para Presents. We do it weekly, but this week we recorded on Monday, and it premieres every Thursday now. By the way, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, on the Pair channel. But we recorded on Monday, and Sergio was our guest, and we even said, "Hey, uh, I was talking to Sergio about this, saying, there are stupid parents making stupid decisions again. I've been hearing about minors riding in car in rideshare again." Sergio and I went through that, not even mentioning that literally 2 days later, last week, that on Wednesday it was announced that no, we're actually gonna, after since the beginning when we said no unaccompanied minors, 2009, we're now this many years later gonna say, hey, we are gonna allow them. And it was weird because we had just talked about it. And then here it is, and it's Uber Teen. Now, why would they do this? And why did I bring up the insurance of like a Drizzly or doing Uber Connect and making sure you're carrying that right insurance? Here's why. Because Uber, look, there's a reason there's a hop, skip, drive. There's a reason why a lot of and some have not made it. They've fallen by the wayside, but there's a reason why transportation companies that that move kids, um, even like the hop, skip, drive, all those kind of things that move kids, they have a harder time getting a success ratio in a city because they can't afford to cover the amount of insurance you need to do it. That if you go look up why a bunch of these have failed, I mean, I could start naming cities of people I've talked to where some of these were coming about. I've interviewed a few, and most of them failed, not because they didn't have the business, but because the insurance was impossible to cover. Um, and here's what I see happening. Uber's going to allow you to use the platform and to take a teen. So, 13 to 17-year-olds will have to have sub accounts under their parents' accounts. This whole thing makes me sick, by the way, guys. I'm not trying to, when I'm laying this out, I'm just telling you how it is. I think it's wrong in every way. But they're going to have sub accounts under their parents. If they use it, their parents are going to be able to see where they are in the real time. But that feature's been there. I mean, there's so many things can go wrong, but the biggest one for the drivers, okay? I don't think anybody in the whole mix should be involved in this. The parents shouldn't allow the kids to do it. The kids shouldn't be getting in there, and the drivers should not be picking them up. Now, I know drivers already do pick them up, and it's not allowed. So it's like now by Uber passing what'll somehow be labeled Uber X Teen. So when it says teen ride, you're going to know that. But by them doing that, it's almost them saying, "Hey, this is legal." And here's my thing: it's not legal. Um, the independent contractor, the driver for the platform Uber, you need to make sure you are carrying the right insurance to transport 13 to 17-year-olds on top of any rideshare insurance you might carry. Now, I challenge every one of you to call your insurance agent or a insurance agent. Maybe you've wanted to price out your insurance against other insurance anyway lately. So call them and ask them, like, hey, this is my, got a good driving record. Looking to get some insurance. Here's my vehicle, or whatever you can give them just to get an idea and see what they think about. Yeah, tell them, yeah, you do some rideshare, or yeah, you do some delivery, and see what they think about Uber Teen and how much it would cost, if even possible, to get it covered. Now, that said, I do not think any driver should do this. Every article has at least led me to believe that it will be a toggle feature, so you will be able to go into the settings and turn it off. On the other side of it too, if you guys are wondering, yes, it will apply to Uber Eats as well. They can have sub accounts of their parents, and their parents will be notified every time they make an order, this, that, the other. But um, the thing about the ride share that really gets to me is that Uber is abusing a statistic here without letting you know as a driver that legally they don't have you on this one. Like, they'll let their insurance go to whatever it can, but most likely their insurance won't even be used because you're going to have a whole separate policy to transport kids. So here's the thing. In the articles that I've been reading, approximately 25% of Americans or kids in the US who are 16 years old have their license. Not like me, the day I turned 16 in Michigan, I went, and when I was growing up, I went and got my license that day. But they're not even talking about that. They're talking about how many 16-year-olds in this country have a license, and it's only 25%. It's very down. So here's what's happening. I think you guys just figured it out. Look, there's a whole market of these kids who don't want to drive. They don't want their license. They don't really care. They're not saving up for a car. They're already figuring out other things in transportation and whatnot. And Uber's seeing this, and they're like, well, wait a minute. By the time they're in high school, if we can just get them using us, they're going to stick with those patterns and not want or need a car. And they're just, eventually they'll need a license just for identification. But kids aren't going out for their license anymore. And that's what's going on. So, I was hoping to get to the Colorado Drivers Co-op and the Illinois Common Carriers. However, they don't actually have there's no real outcome yet on those. So I'll save that because we're probably going to hear something about that a little more this week. But you can also go to ridesharerodeo.com and you can click the articles. I believe it's It's either the 19th or the 20th post. You can find both of the articles there that I just mentioned. But what I do want to end with today is, well, the Minnesota regulations, because we've seen these go up, down, crazy. So if you guys remember, I was telling you guys that Minnesota wanted on the floor, they had a bill, and it's now attached to some other bills too. So for these other bills that need to go through in this session, this one's attached. So they have to push it through. So 2 Wednesdays ago was supposed to be when they did this. They stayed after. They were trying to redraft it because they had things in there like, you have to carry $1 million of medical. Well, Uber's response was, there's not a company in this country that provides $1 million of medical. So they were asking them to do something that literally cannot be done. And so the other thing they were trying to do is all phases, not just the phase three and potentially part of phase two, but there's 4 phases of rideshare: 0, 1, 2, and 3. 0 is you've got the app on, you're sitting waiting for a ping. 2 is you've received a ping and you've accepted it. 3 is you are on your way to pick up the client. And 4 is the client is in the car and you're taking them to the destination. The only time that you are fully covered by Uber anyway, is during phase three, the final one. But Minnesota wanted it to be that even in phase 0, 1, 2, and 3, so 0, where you just have the app on, maybe you're not even accepting rides, you'd be covered. So that needed to go. The other thing needed to go. So now it just came down to the rate. And we know they're going for upfront fares. But here's what looks like it happened, because they went back this Wednesday, didn't finish, and they said they had to finish it by Thursday night. From what I understand, this got signed in on Thursday night. I'm still looking for the actual proof of that. I know that it's now, we'll get it for sure. But so Minnesota was 60 cents a mile for UberX and 20 cents a minute. Now this is going before obviously upfront fares. Now $1.45 a mile and 34 cents a minute. And we will get into that more this coming week. Until next week, 13 minutes of news. Make sure to catch all the other shows that pop up on the Rideshare Rodeo channel. And also make sure to say happy birthday to Mr. Flex. You'll have to figure out when it is. But happy birthday, Flex. Peace. See you all back here. Earn smart and be safe. That's 13 minutes of news in just under 13 minutes. Take care.